Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Forest Full of Stories. I'm going to try something new. Try something. I believe everybody has a story to tell, and it is something that I strongly believe in, and I believe those stories need to be shared. A lot of people are interesting, walk in different walks of life, and I think listening to somebody's story could get you aligned with something that you're going through in your life. You know, hardships, good things, sharing the joy, and I believe it's a good thing to open up to people just about your life in general. I think it's like a free psychology session, like that's going to what we're going to talk about. I'm starting with my good friend Alex. Right. So you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. My name is Alex Tonchev. I'm originally from Bulgaria. I'm 23 now. Yeah. That's basic introductions, I guess.
Good. So how I would like to begin this, and this is going to be the format that, you know, I'm probably going to do all of these shows in, is first of all, just tell me your story. It can be as a brief or as detailed as you want it. Obviously, I would prefer if you give more detail, but everything from birth to where you are now, the highs, the lows, anything that stands out, this is where you shine.
Great, yeah. So, yeah, I was born in Bulgaria, in Sofia, in 2001. My parents were Christians when I was born, but they weren't Christians their whole life because they grew up in communist Bulgaria, where Christianity was just not really allowed, and there was a lot of stuff going on there with that. But yeah, they met each other through faith, essentially. They were already Christian when they met, and then, yeah, and that's how my story begins. So since I was born, basically, I've always been a Christian, and it's a big part of my identity. I have 3 other siblings, where I'm the oldest, and then they go 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, the difference with me. So we're pretty close in age, most of us 7 years biggest gap. So yeah, when I was 2, 3 growing up, my dad spoke English to me, and I also was exposed to a lot of English media or American media. Stuff like VeggieTales, different cartoons, Dora the Explorer, Sesame Street, all those fun stuff. And with my dad speaking English to me only, and me replying in Bulgarian, I then kind of developed this accent that I have now. So I sound
very American. Very American.
Yes, I sound very American. I often just say I'm from California or from Kansas, and people will not believe that I'm Bulgarian. I'm sure it helps.
Yeah, the first time I spoke to you, I definitely thought you're from America, and then you said Bulgarian. I'm like, I'm not sure I believe that for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, also part of my growing up was interacting with a lot of American missionaries. My parents, because they've been serving since before I was born and still do serve as missionaries. So especially in Bulgaria, there was a big surge of missionaries right after the wall fell. The curtain, not the wall. And then while I was growing up, they were still there. Now it's a little bit different, the situation, but when I was there, I had a lot of like American families, and their kids also influenced me with speaking English, same stuff like that, and just being exposed to American culture at a very young age, along with Bulgarian, of course, because I am Bulgarian. I went to Bulgarian school for technically 4 years, technically 5. We'll get to that in a second. And yeah, I think that's a big part of who I am now, is that initial like introduction to American culture and just English in general. And then yeah, I thought I was gonna have a pretty normal life, so to speak. But then when I was 8, my family moved to Hungary, Budapest for like a year. My parents had some sort of training thing going on for 9 months. It's called Build. I still to this day am not entirely sure what it entailed. It was supposed to be some leadership thing. But yeah, so that was a 9-month program, and we moved and lived there for 9 months. And when I was there was a Christian school there. It's called ICSB. It's relevant for later in the story, so that's why I'm saying the name. But ICSB, I was there, and it was just a purely American school, and my parents were just like, well, go.
Go to the American school.
Yeah, exactly. It was an international school, so in that class I had 2 Hungarians, and then just other Americans, and then me. So it was pretty, like, it wasn't, and a Canadian, I guess he counts not as American. So it was actually pretty international, even just my class. And then the whole environment there was like a few Korean kids I remember, a few other Bulgarians actually. So yeah, it was pretty international. It wasn't just an American. But the first 2 weeks I was there, I was very silent. I'm not a very silent person in general. I'm pretty extroverted and pretty loud in most cases. So it was very interesting. For the first 2 weeks, I was, again, just silent. Didn't talk much, was kind of just absorbing English. Because, again, I never really spoke it at home. I would just always reply in Bulgarian when my dad would, ask me questions or just speak to me in English.
But you understood it, like, completely? You just didn't respond in English?
Yes. I think, I really would understand it because I was watching all these TV shows. And, I was able to really understand what they were saying, but I never, like, kind of spoke out. I remember times when I would go to, like, with, like, family gatherings with other, like, Americans. I would understand everything, but, like, I would just reply in Bulgarian, and they would be kind of like, they also spoke some Bulgarian, so that's how I would bridge the gap, I remember. But yeah, back at that school, the first 2 weeks silent, and then start speaking. I was like, oh, I guess I might as well start speaking.
You broke the silence.
Yes, I did. And then that's how I really developed into the English speaking thing. But then because I was there for 1 year, one school year, my second grade school year, and when I came back to Bulgaria, because my parents knew they were coming back to Bulgaria, I was really, like, lacking in terms of education because the American system is opposite of, I would say, the Bulgarian system. In terms of that, in the Bulgarian system, you start off very hard, like they push you very hard until like 8th, 9th grade, and then you're kind of like, we've learned everything, right? For example, in math, in Bulgarian school, you already are doing like multiplication in grade 2. In the American system, we were counting blocks and doing 3 plus 5. It's just how it is in the system. High school in America is when it gets more tough and you actually do more complicated things. There's benefits to both systems, I believe. So, but because I switched so fast, my second grade year there, I was pretty good grades because I knew everything. Because I'd been through essentially hell in first grade, and then I got thrown back into third grade. And that summer from second to third grade, I remember it was like so bad because my parents you have to learn Bulgarian, you have to get back and like basically study everything that the kids that stayed studied. Yeah,
for a year. So you had to bridge the gap in 3 months.
Yeah. And I mean, my dad really, I remember he really tried to push me to study both, like have like Bulgarian school on Saturdays. But I mean, I'm an 8-year-old kid who's, doesn't have discipline and all that fun stuff that comes with being an adult. So I didn't do a lot of that plan that he had for me, and I would be really reluctant to go, I don't want to study. I just was at school from 8 to 3, 4. And so I was just like, no, I don't want to do any of this. So yeah, that summer was really hard. And then I was back in the Bulgarian system and thinking this is where I'm going to be. So I did 2 years there, struggled a bit, but was like a normal kid again. My English was amazing, so English classes in Bulgarian school were a drag, and also because they taught British English, I was so mad at my teacher.
You went to the American because that's where you came from. That's how you learned it.
Yeah, and she would be like, what she said, trousers? I was like, bro, those are pants. Those are not trousers, those are pants. And she would be like, bring me your grade book. I'm like, what? What's a grade book? Isn't it just like, what is a grade book? So all these like British terms. But yeah, I was so bored in English class, and all the kids around me like, oh, Alex, help me. And I was like, oh, please no. But yeah, English was definitely a breeze after
you learned it for basically most of your life at that point.
I know. And this is a slight brag, but when I was in that year in Budapest, I actually made it to the high school musical because they needed like an elementary schooler it's the musical, The Music Man. And there's a little kid in there who's like kind of not a main character, but he's definitely a very strong side character. And I was able to audition and then got the part. And so I was interacting with high schoolers a bunch because when I was in second grade. So I think that also helped a lot with my conversational and just not just talking to like my peers who were young, but also like older kids. And I remember most of that experience, I think, was really fun. There's video footage of me singing and as I'm like 8 somewhere on YouTube.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just I was really happy to be there and part of the experience. And so going back to Bulgaria, it felt was like really boring and dull, and I didn't enjoy it at all. And then Bulgarian school was great. I thought it would be normal, but then my parents were like, "Well, we're gonna move to Russia."
Just like that, like no warning.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, no, I don't entirely remember. I was still a bit young, but yeah, they had been asked to go to Russia. Well, called by God, firstly, I believe, and then also the Russian ministry needed some help. And my dad was a really good fit for that. He works with like operations in the ministry and crew, so like kind of behind the scenes, but doing financial stuff, helping people get visas, just operating like the ministry from the back end instead of the front end. And so he got called to do that, and then my parents were like, "Well, we're gonna go to Russia, but it's gonna take some time." And the way the Bulgarian system works is 1st through 4th grade, you're kind of like an elementary school, and then 5th through 8th is middle school, and then it's high school. But after 4th grade, you take these really big exams, I guess, which are kind of like, they can determine kind of like a major that you can choose in school. So depending on how good your grades are, you can literally change schools and go to like a specific math school or a specific language school. And so it's like a really hard time to be like, well, next year we're going to be moving. So you have to kind of decide what you're going to do.
Okay. It's quite early to make a decision that drastic.
I know.
Life.
Yeah. And kids will just be like, like if depending on your scores, if you're good enough, you can go to specialized like schools and then kind of excel in that category.
Oh, okay.
I think there's benefits to that, but I think it also doesn't help because it's like mostly you're doing math. I remember we had a pretty smart class, all things considered, I remember. And some of the kids there were like really good at math. And they went to these math, like specialized schools. And I later heard that there was just like, it's so boring. All we do is math. And like, there's not like that diversity of.
It's hyper specialized.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was, well, I did decently on my exams. I didn't really like studying in general. So I did decent in my exams, and I basically decided to stay in that, in my own school, which with like studying Russian now. Because at this point, my parents kind of knew that we would be moving. And so that was going to be like, well, I can take Russian as a second language and specialize in that Russian thing to help me in the next year. But because we were going to move the next year, my parents were like, well, it's best if, like, they tried to pull me out, and me and my sister, because she was going to be a 3rd grader and I was going to be a 5th grader. But they wanted to pull us out because it's really difficult because it's like for elementary it was fine, but for me it would have been difficult because you have to like switch schools, you start switching classrooms. So for a little kid, it's like, difficult to just...
it's a stressful environment for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. To just do it for like 1 year and then having to completely move countries. So that year, me and my sister were homeschooled. But at that point, I don't know if it's still a thing, but at that point it was definitely illegal to be homeschooled. So we technically weren't homeschooled. By miracle of God, our principal of the school basically said, okay, you guys can study from home and like your mom is going to teach you, but on paper we were still part of the school and part of like class. We were on class lists and everything. We had grades and we had to take like basically midterms.
Oh, okay.
And then make sure we passed those. But at the same time have to study everything that the Bulgarians are studying at the same time mid-school. And my mom had to teach both of us somehow. So that year was very hard for me because a lot of new material, a lot of new, like everything is escalated up a level from elementary school. And then also doing it with my mom was not the best because my mom's not a teacher. She just had to, take care of the house. And there's 3 other siblings. Like my brother was attending kindergarten at that point. So he had to be taken to kindergarten. He didn't like it. There was a whole clash there. And my younger sister is also like trying to study as well. And my youngest sister is like 3 or something. I don't know. But she's like basically still a small child, borderline baby. So it was hectic and crazy. So I didn't like that year a lot at all because I just felt it was so much. But I still had to study to pass these exams.
Yeah.
But what did help is I was studying Russian, so that helped a little bit because we knew we were going to move to Russia.
And as a kid, did you know the stakes? Did you know that you had to pass the midterms? Like, was this explained to you?
I mean, yeah, I understood that I need to get good grades. My whole family, well, at least on my dad's side, they're all teachers and scholars and kind of this kind of stuff. So it was always a big thing. Like, oh, you need to have good grades, you need to study well. A lot of push there. My grandparents, my dad's side, especially my grandma, she still teaches math actually, and she like does tutoring stuff. But even then, she was the one pushing me and like teaching not only me but my sister and also my cousin. She was like the homeschool teacher number 2. So yeah, always a good push and always value on grades in my family. And then we moved to Russia, and at first there was a lot of talk about going into Russian public school, which would have been not fun, especially just moving like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have not enjoyed that. But again, I think God provided a way for all 4 of us to go and study at this international school, Christians. It was international. It's called the International Christian School of St. Petersburg. No, International Academy of St. Petersburg, but it's a Christian school. And I think that's where a lot of my reshaping happened. Obviously, teenage years for everyone are super reshapable, but...
So, sorry, just so we have the timeline. So how old were you when you moved to Russia?
12, yeah.
12.
It was...
So just
20...
breaking ground as a teenager.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I was... Yeah. 6th grade. My 6th grade was my first year in Russia. I was a 6th grader. And then was there until 10th grade, so I was there for 5 years.
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But yeah, moved to Russia. Glad that we were in American school because I missed the American system. Also, like, I knew the environment because of ICSB in the past. It was a very similar feel. And yeah, because it was a Christian school, all the teachers were Christians and they actually like cared for their kids versus what I'd seen in Bulgaria. And again, smaller classes was really helpful. In Bulgaria, the classes are 25 to 30. Very, like, that's basically average. Most classes will be around 30 kids anyway. It's very rare to get a smaller sample. And even 25 kids, I think it's too much to be teaching with one teacher teaching all these kids. So yeah, I had a smaller class, teachers that like really cared for you, and just a better environment in general. So Russia was really great in that aspect, and that's when I started to develop more as myself and a human being, developing my faith a little bit more. Obviously, just being in this Christian bubble my whole life has helped a lot, but it was, at that point, it was definitely my parents' faith and not my own faith. It was like, we go to church because we go to church.
Yeah, because you have to, kind of, not because you want to. Right?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's more of like, yeah, we do this, the reasons are not clear to me yet, but we do it, and everyone around me is doing it, so that also helps. Also, we had chapels at school as well, Bible classes in school, so again, everything around me is basically Christian and like, you know, trying to build me up in that. Yeah, and then a lot of fun stories from Russia. The most noticeable times is when I was more of a teenager. I was being very rebellious. I didn't want to listen to my parents. I didn't want to listen to authority. I felt like I know what I'm doing. Kind of a pride thing as well. I'm not really humble in that regard. But yeah, just, you know, do want to do my own thing, being super rebellious, and not only to my parents, but also in relationship with God. So I remember slightly like 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade. So I would have been like, what, 14? Yeah, like 13, 14. Yeah, around that point. I really just did not want to do anything. Don't want to deal with Christianity. Didn't want to be really part of that, whatever this is. There's too many rules. There's too many don't do this, don't do this. I'm seeing all my like secular friends going to party, you know, doing what they want. Their parents don't care about them. They get this freedom. They can do whatever they want. So I was really like, yeah, I don't want to be a Christian. And so there's a time, especially there, where in that specific time, I just didn't care. Kind of turned away from faith, if you can really say that. That's a theological debate for another time. But it was, I kind of didn't want to be called a Christian. Looked at other religions. Like, I was like, well, Christianity is like too many rules. Let's check like Buddhism. Do they have rules?
So we are looking for something to believe in, just something with less rules, right? It wasn't like you were completely like as atheist, you don't want to believe in anything. You still looked for your outlet, but you just thought that Christianity is not the right one.
Yeah, well, deep down I knew, like, I had, again, part of my growing up, but also I had come to the conclusion that, like, there needs to be a creator or at least some sort of intelligent design. The world is too structured. There's too much evidence in just nature itself, that too much calculated processes that need to be precise for there to life to exist. I remember, I think I was in 7th grade when I first heard that, like, if the Earth was like 200 meters to the left or to the right, we wouldn't have the ecosystem we have here. Like, the Earth is positioned perfectly to the distance of the sun and how it rotates for us to have life. If it was even,
It's, I think, a golden ratio or whatever it's
exactly, yeah, something like that. When I was like, oh, well, that is so coincidental that there needs to be something else.
Okay.
But again, I didn't want it to be Christianity because there was too many rules. There was like, don't do this, don't do this. So I looked at also at Islam, as I mentioned, Buddhism, to be like, well, maybe, they're doing, they have creators and they have, explanations. But I was like, maybe this is better. Or even Judaism, like, oh, well, Judaism has a lot of rules, to be honest. So I quickly discarded that one. But to me, Islam was like, yeah, maybe it's true. They say this, they say this. And then, just not a great time to be in that state of mind of just rebelling. A lot of consequences came from that with just my whole life and like not trusting my parents as much as I should have, and then having repercussions later in life of just not just willing to take certain steps of faith and be like, yeah, I trust what you guys are saying, but kind of doing my own thing. But then I was my freshman year, so 9th grade, after my 9th grade. Yes, after my 9th grade year in high school, I went to a project, so a missions project. It's a thing that Christians do to kind of like, they gather a group of people and they go to a country and just kind of evangelize. So in our organization, there's a thing called MK to MK, which is missionary kid to missionary kid. It basically takes a bunch of kids from all over the world with our organization, or even outside, I think, can apply. And then they get a group together and there's leaders that come with, but it's like a great way for teenagers to go and see, like, this is what my parents do. Or this is like what a lot of people have talked about. It's like a practical way to go and do it. So I was one of my best friends from my high school was like, yo, I'm going. I think we should go. And also my parents are really encouraged. So I was like, okay, let's go. It sounds fun.
And this friend, was he more religious than you at that point? Was he?
From the outside, yes. We had later talked, and it was like, everyone struggles with faith, especially when you're a teenager, because there's so much stuff going on. But at least from the outside, yes, I would say.
Okay, and then was he the only reason that you went, or were there other factors in play?
It was a big reason for me to go. It's like, oh, like, you're going, and like, I think it'd be great to go. And I was interested to go. Also, it was in Albania. And Albania is kind of my corner of the world. So I thought that would be really interesting. And also there was the directors of the mission trip, or directors of the project, were former missionaries in Bulgaria. So they knew my family really well. So that was another reason, like, oh, another familiar, like, people. And I also knew them, I guess.
So it had like threads of familiarity.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't,
drew you in.
Yeah, it wasn't just like go to Thailand, because I do missionary trips to Thailand or South Africa where it's just like, boop, go.
Yeah.
And Albania was close by, and I'm not a massive fan of traveling due to us driving
so much.
Again, we drove from Russia to Bulgaria every summer, every summer and back, so 10 times.
So how long does it take, like the round trip? Well, let's say 1 week, obviously don't count.
Well, yeah, round trip, yeah, because you stay there for 9 months. It's 4 days in one direction.
like of the actual driving 4 days?
4 days of 4 days. So the leg we did was Sofia to Budapest. The sleep in Budapest. That's 1 day. Normally it's around 10-ish hours of driving. That's kind of that's what you can do. So my dad and my mom could kind of muster with 4 kids in the back who, like, again, are the first time we went, we were very young. Especially the younger ones are like pretty young. So yeah, but it's then 4 days.
Yeah, I imagine it being very challenging for your parents as well when you say that.
Probably.
They really were dedicated to the cause.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. Like, if we have pictures, there's probably pictures of the first van that will maybe pop on screen. But yeah, if you see that first van, it wasn't even a big van. It was like a minivan with 4 kids, and then anything we could muster, because we'd never lived there. Like the first time, like we didn't even have a place to stay for the first. Like we didn't have an apartment. Like we kind of went there and we had housing provided for us from some church people, like connections, but like we didn't even know the people that house we're staying in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we never met them because they were away in America for the summer, and they had an amazing. But their apartment was like downtown St. Petersburg, like literally on the river, and then like if you've seen pictures of St. Petersburg, these can pop up as well. But it's like the tower, not the tower. The super famous church, like Church of Spilled Blood, is like that, like you could see it from the window of their apartment. Like it was like straight center, right?
That's crazy.
So for us coming in after a 4-day journey in this minivan with 4 kids to that massive apartment was a crazy experience, and I think again shows God's provision for my family in that case.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, long journey. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Right, the mission trip, right. So I went there. Again, the familiarity was a big push. And then going there is maybe the first time I had really, that's because I was at a weak point in faith. And that was also like a challenge to me. I was like, okay, God, if you want me to go to this, I'll go. And like, we'll see what happens, because I wasn't really looking to go there and be like, this is great. Another big thing was we had to raise our own support, so we had to fund ourselves. So that was also a challenge for me. So I had to reach out to people as a 15-year-old and be like, hey, I'm going to the mission trip. Can you maybe help me financially? Of course with prayer, but also financially, because that's kind of a challenge of the whole experience. They don't just want to pay a bunch of money so you can just go, but it's like it's part of being a missionary is raising
your own fund.
Or getting funding from somewhere.
It's part of the challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a really important part, because it shows like you're putting your faith in God, saying, God, I trust that you'll provide for me in this time of need, basically. So it's even before you go on the trip, you're already like putting your full faith in God and saying, hey, I need help with this. And obviously a lot more stuff to come on the actual trip. But even beforehand, you're already trusting and praying that this is what God wants for you. So I ended up going. It was, very revolutionary time in my life, if you could say that. I was there for 5 weeks, 4 weeks of missionary work, and then the other week was kind of, first we had training, at the end we had like a debriefing time with the whole team, and kind of a few days to just be as a team and kind of say goodbye, because we got really close with those people. There was 24 of us, 8 guys and 16 girls, so it was very proportional too. And I think that was, just people from all over. Most of them were Americans, but we go by country we serve in. So there's people from Thailand, some people from, one dude from like New Zealand, his family's serving New Zealand, former missionaries in China, from America. So it was just an amazing time to see exactly what it really means to be a missionary and living out your faith. And I think it was at that project that I was like, oh, okay, I can finally see this. I think that's when God really was like, hey, I think you should try.
So it was a come to faith moment for you, definitely, in your life.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's when I would say is when I really started to committing to live out my faith. Now I had a long way to go, but I think it was at that project that I was like, yes, I really want to, serve God in every way I can. And I had a lot of growing pains in that, but that was definitely the moment where I was like, okay, I believe in this Christianity, in Jesus. I believe in him, and I really want to try to model that.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 15. 15, like somewhere around 15. So
just as you're forming as a human being, like your own independent human being, that's when you really pick up your faith, and that's where you go from there, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say so, yeah. And then, I had one more year in Russia after that. Again, my school in St. Petersburg was really great. I made a lot of long-lasting friendships from there. I love St. Petersburg as a city. I've been back once since we left, but would love to go again. I think it's a great, I don't know, it's one of my favorite cities. I guess it's my favorite city in the world, so I love visiting it whenever I can. But yeah, I think that whole experience has really shaped me who I am, and not only the project, but also just living in Russia and then learning Russian, speaking Russian. That helps in this part of the world where I am now, and just in general having another common language and being able to communicate with people, very important.
Yeah.
And then in 2018 we left. My parents, like my dad was kind of done with Russia, but like they had served in Russia enough and felt a calling somewhere else. And then God called us to Budapest.
Back to Budapest at this point.
So this is where the back to Budapest goes. And then all of my siblings got enrolled into ICSB again. I had been the only one. I was the only one that. Oh no, actually, my sister was in first grade there too. So but like my other two siblings were too young to ever go. So that was their first time at ICSB. And then that's where I think all of us will graduate from too. 3 of us have graduated from ICSB, and the youngest one has a year left. So that's where I graduated from. Again, a great time. That's when I really in the Christian community, but I was trying to live up my faith more, participated in a bunch of Christian stuff, tried to be part of the church community, was doing worship, being part of worship bands. I mean, I had done that in the past, but more so then, and like just being involved in church and stuff like that, because I really believed what like my parents were doing, and now it was I could see it better and could see myself doing it. It's like my own faith. It's not because my parents told me to do it. It's because I want to. And it's because I felt called by God to do that.
So at this point, you found your own faith. You're in a new country again.
Yes.
But things are completely different now because it's your own faith.
Yeah. I felt like it was better. Again, I had a lot of struggles and growing pains, and I think that's part of every Christian's life. I mean, every human life, if I really want to say it that way. But it was more so, it was better to struggle with Christ instead of without him, and have him know that like his grace is sufficient for me, and like no matter what I'm doing or how I'm messing up, because I messed up a lot in high school as well. And then after I graduated 2020, so COVID had just hit in March. So right before our graduating class was supposed to graduate, as many others in the world. And I had always wanted to go study in the States ever since I was young. Again, the American influence just around me was like, oh, American colleges are great. They're strong Christian colleges. You can go. It's community. And I've heard so many stories because, again, most people I communicated were older Americans than me, and they had gone through college. And they're always praising it. Oh, yeah, college changed my life. It was like the best experience for me. Like, I met my best friends there, my spouses. Like, without this college, I would have never had a family. And all these, like, praise stuff. And I was like, whoa, that sounds great. I want to go to an American college. Because I didn't really see myself going back to Bulgaria, not with my educational lack in Bulgarian
educational gaps.
Oh yeah. I'm like a 5th grader in Bulgarian literature and everything, whatever, because it's the last time I did it. So yes, I want to go to an American college, and there was some struggles there because of COVID. Obviously everything was going crazy. I didn't do super well. I had slightly above average scores, but I wasn't getting scholarships for being a genius, to put it that way. And just not having enough financial support to go to like America was a big issue, at least in my like heart, because I knew that like my family wasn't super rich. I mean, we're not, because yeah, like there's 3 others that need to go to college as well, and also we're not like in the business of making money, basically.
Yeah.
So to me, that was like a massive like wall that was like, well, like this financial like insurmountable, basically. And I could say I definitely did not trust God in providing in that. I was like too scared of like, well, there's no way we can get this money for me to go. And so I did go touring American colleges. My first time in America was 2019.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my first time ever setting foot on the land of the free. Yeah. It was my first time. So, and I was, shocked. I think that also was like, oh, this American dream is just on the movies. It's not.
It opened your eyes to everything, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you went primarily to Christian colleges, right? When you did the tours?
Yes, primarily, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you say this? What opened your eyes to it? Like, what was that you did not like, per se?
Oh, it wasn't just like, I think the colleges were great. What I didn't like was just American, just like, the feeling of being in America for me was like suffocating. I don't know.
Okay. You just didn't like the vibe of it all.
Okay, the vibe is like too modern gen to say, but it's more of like, I didn't feel at home. Like,
okay. That's, okay.
Yeah, in Europe, I had always felt like, and I moved around in Europe, I was like, hey, yeah, I can settle in here. Like, I can see it. Like, culturally, it's fairly similar. I can, yeah. Like, I felt more at home here in Europe than in there. There in America, even though I probably could fit in super well, it just didn't feel right for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
But then still, I didn't want to go to college there. But yeah, I college toured, and then basically got a bunch of sad news saying that, oh, it costs $50K a year.
So super expensive.
Oh, yeah. And even though, like, there's some, like, Christian schools that were offering, like, a lot of scholarships because they knew I was international and my parents were missionaries, so they're trying to, like, compensate. And even with my grades and everything, they're like, well, and, like, getting to meet me and even talk to me, were like, oh, yeah, like, we could give you, like, $25K off. And you're like, well, I still have to pay, like,
$25K.
More or less, yeah. I have to pay, like, $13K out of pocket a year.
Yeah, which is...
Like, that is insane.
Quite expensive.
Yeah, that's so much.
For European standards, that is expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And just so for extra context, in a lot of places in Europe, you can get a student loan.
Yeah.
Which then you pay back from your own bank account once you get a job.
Right.
And it's quite loose in term conditions, but like they make it so you go and then you pay back, in 10, 15 years when you have a decent paying job.
Of course. And in America, it's the same thing, actually.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, of course. Everyone is graduating with debt, basically. Most of the friends that I have that went to American colleges, I graduated with debt. The problem is they're Americans, they can get American loans. Yeah. And to get like a European loan for an American university is more complicated.
Okay, understood.
So, and I also didn't want to get a loan because, well, it's not, I was like, I don't want to pay this back. Like,
You, like, didn't sound like financially what you wanted to do, just long term, right?
Yeah. And again, because it would be as, like, yes, if you go to America and you end up working in America and you pay their loan, it's probably fine. But the problem is if I'm getting a European loan and I go work in Europe, it's like, well, the salaries discrepancy.
Yeah, understood.
It's just not ideal. But yeah, I didn't end up going to American college. I had a safe option, which I had heard about in Russia, actually. Some of my upperclassmen, when I was in sophomore year, so 10th grade, were talking about this school in Lithuania called LCC. And they were like, oh yeah, it's a basketball school. I love playing basketball. I was pretty good in high school. Set some school records and stuff.
Pretty good.
It's a very small Christian school, so it's not something to brag about, but it is just for context. Like, I was a decent competitor in basketball, and I had thought about maybe playing in college. And so someone had mentioned, oh yeah, there's this school LCC. They're a Christian school in Lithuania. It's close to St. Petersburg if you ever want to come back. Because I had part of me wanted to always go back there and like maybe live in the future. So being in like Lithuania, so I'm like, oh, it's close by. You can drive to St. Petersburg because we'd done that many times. We'd driven past. So it was like, oh yeah, this could work. And it's a Christian school, and I wanted to be in a Christian school because I knew whatever I wanted to study, I wanted to be from a Christian perspective. Okay. I didn't want to start studying, let's say, just whatever and be like, oh yeah, Big Bang. It's not like I'd have to then start debating about, no, this is wrong, and it would just be so intellectually dissonant
Mm-hmm.
that I just wouldn't enjoy it.
Okay.
So that's a big reason why I also wanted to be in a Christian school. Was like, well, if I have the same worldview, we can then build upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Because in secular school, I remember in Bulgaria, I was like, half the stuff you're teaching me, I know is wrong because it's not what I believe, or at least what I was taught to believe. So,
okay, yeah, that makes sense.
so yeah, being a Christian school is a big value for me. So yeah, I ended up then after high school, I graduated high school, and then I was like, well, none of the American schools are working out. Even though I was really close to going to America, I could have. There was some doors open, but I didn't feel like I wanted to do that. And LCC sounded like a really safe option, and it was cheap. Like we could basically pay out of pocket for it. And I was like, well, great. And I hated it when I remember, I booked everything. I was ready to go, and I flew out in the summer. And I'd been to Lithuania, but only with my family, and we just drove past. So I'd never really been to Lithuania. So I land, and it's COVID, and I had to take 1,000 tests and all that fun stuff, as we remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, I basically just packed 2 suitcases and just left. I was like, well, time to go to college. So I land in Lithuania, and I'm like, well, okay, this is fine. I'm just at the airport. I take a shuttle bus. I go to Klaipėda, which is a small town on the coast. Oh yeah, it's a small town on the coast where the college is at, because it's not, and it's a pain to get to that town. Like there's nothing direct. You have to take a bus from a big airport or fly into Palanga, which is like another small town nearby that somehow
Even
has an
smaller town.
Even smaller town that has an airport. Which is like, why don't we have an airport in Klaipėda? But whatever. And so I just pull up and I go, like, the driver in the shuttle bus, it's like basically a big taxi, pulls me up, like, hey, this it? I'm like, yeah. I had no idea. I'd never seen pictures. I didn't even bother looking at the pictures.
Oh, really?
No, I had no idea.
Completely blind picture. Recommendations.
Yeah, basically. I had obviously seen their page, but I didn't care that much about what it looked like or the dorms or anything.
Yeah, you didn't care about the aesthetics of it. You just wanted to go on something.
In retrospect, if I really should have thought about it, I should have taken a gap year and maybe reassessed what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. But there was just too much pressure from everywhere to be like, oh, you should go. You should be going to college.
So you got pressure from family per se?
Just everything. The family, socially, like just everything. It's like, well, you want to go. I had trouble picking my major. I didn't know what I wanted to study. Part of me wanted to be a doctor at some point, and then I took a AP bio class my junior year, so 11th grade, and I was like, nope, this is not for me. Like, I really enjoy it. It's really interesting, but I'm not going to study for another 10 years.
Yeah, makes sense.
That is not something I really want to do. So then but I was really interested in like the mind and like body. Like I wanted to study something, well, that's not math or literature because I hated both. So psychology was a good one. So that's kind of my goal, was to study psychology somewhere. And LCC had psychology. So yeah, I wanted to study the mind, get into people's psyche. I was really interested by like why we make decisions, what causes us to do different things in life. I think that's all psychology related. So yeah, I'm studying psychology at LCC. I pull up, and the first day there, I'm like, I need to get out. This is horrible. We go through like the orientation stuff, and I'm just like, oh, this is like the worst thing ever. At the time, I had a girlfriend that was in America, and I almost went to college right next to hers. And so I'm in this relationship, and I'm like, I hate it here. I want to just go to America and, obviously be with my girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. But like, this is not it. And I was trying so hard to get out. My plan was to just get into a college and then maybe transfer out, because then you could pay less in American college if you already have some credits. They can do like exchange stuff. So it was financially kind of better. So I pulled up LCC, and I'm like, nope, I need to be here for a semester and leave. But again, it was COVID time. So, well, COVID was a problem. We had hybrid classes, and then at some point the campus shut down, and I just went home. Like I went back to Budapest where my family was still living, and I was like, okay, well now I have to do online education. I couldn't transfer out, and I was like, well then I'll just be there for another semester, because that semester.
So you were saying now you are back in Budapest?
Yes.
And everything is remote studying, right?
Right, yeah. And again, I'm hating I think I would have enjoyed college if we started off on a more positive note. But starting off, like, I did enjoy it. Like, the first few weeks there, I was like, get me out. Mm-hmm. But then I started to, get to know more people, get in the community, get to, participate in, like, I found a good Christian community pretty quickly, started participating in stuff I like to participate normally. So it was okay. Mm-hmm. But then again, the whole remote thing was just it was so annoying. It was so hard to deal with. And then, they closed down the school basically. Like, we were fully remote, and then people had the option to leave if they wanted to. And I was like, oh yes, perfect. This is, I'm out of here. And I actually didn't plan on coming back after that semester. Mm-hmm. I was really thinking about transferring out. But then, I kind of didn't put enough effort to transferring out. And then also, again, colleges weren't really looking to accept me at that point. Even though I thought it would be a different story, it really wasn't. So then I was like, well, I guess I can finish this year and then either drop out or maybe look to transfer after this year. And then as I'm getting all these thoughts, we're fully remote. I'm absolutely hating it because I'm back. Like, part of me going to college is like, I don't want to live with my family anymore. I kind of want to be more independent. Mm-hmm. But there I am back stuck, stuck with them again, kind of in a way. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel as free or as like my own person as I did in like the few months I was at LCC, like on campus. Mm-hmm. And then I get an email. Well, not an email. I think it was a text or an email, whatever. Teams message from the chaplain who I'd gotten kind of to know because I started working for him as a sound tech because I did a lot of sound stuff in high school, and I was like, well, I need a job, and it was like a campus job, easy to manage, good to transition into as a freshman, where you're like, well, you can work a few hours here and get paid, and I can get basically like lunch money. Mm-hmm. But it was good, so I can like my first like official job get. Start building some sort of income and all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And he had messaged me like, hey, for next year, would you like to be a chapel worship leader? Mm-hmm. That's a position, like an LDP position. So like, it's a leadership program. There's a bunch of leaders, like student leaders. And then this program is supposed to help them like develop into future leaders, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's, there was chapel worship leaders, there was DAs or discipleship assistants who would lead Bible studies on each floor. There's RAs who manage like the residents of each floor, so they're responsible. There's like FYS leaders who are for freshmen and stuff like that. So the list goes on. I'm not trying to advertise that, but it's just like it's for students who want to be leaders, and they get more responsibilities than just like doing their homework and surviving.
Yeah, plus you get paid for it, right?
Only the RAs get paid.
Yeah,
because they just get free housing for being resident assistants. Everyone else kind of is like a resume building.
Okay, that makes sense. That's what a lot of people do anyway. It's the American system, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's supposed to be an American university. Mm-hmm. American Central University. Mm-hmm. That's what LC is. So I knew it wasn't going to get paid. It was more for the experience. But yeah, I think that was when God was like, I think you should stay at LCC. Because I was like, God, give me some sort of a reason to stay here, because I hate it a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to be part of this, whatever this is. I think that was his answer to that question.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I'll accept, which means I'm going to go back and be in person at LCC. I'd even thought about maybe staying remote, maybe. But yeah, so I had finished my freshman year, and then sophomore year I started doing that. And that's when I was just like, okay, I could actually see myself. I mean, I enjoyed that year a lot. I was developing more as a Christian, just, also being independent, fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, I was still slightly sad that I was in America, but I was seeing the blessings that being in Europe and just living here kind of God had for me, and how it was the correct choice for me to stay, because I had more. It was more in line with my character and everything like that. Then finished LCC. Had a pretty difficult junior and senior year, relationship wise. Also, like, just study wise, I was just did not want to study and just wanted it to be done. But yeah, mostly a lot of the problems that I had was my sophomore year. At the end of my sophomore year, I had gotten a job at IT. And started working for the IT department and the sound department as well. So I was running both. The sound department by myself, IT with another person, another student leader, and then they had actual workers, actual employees. But that summer was great in many ways because I was by myself for the first time, like independently, and like with not a lot of friends around, just like me and a job. And I was like, I love this type of lifestyle. This is what I want to do right after college because studying was just a drag to me. I just can't.
Not a very academic person, right?
Yes, but I'm very I'm interested in learning things, but not how the academic structure is.
Yeah, understand.
And psychology was becoming more and more dull to me. I thought I was going to be studying more interesting things, but we weren't studying, I don't know, just the program itself, or maybe just how they introduce it. Whatever it was not clicking with me. I was not enjoying my major at all. But at that point, it was too late to switch. And also, I knew that if I'm doing psychology, I'd have to probably do a master's after, and that thought even brought my whole mood down even more. So that summer I was, again, pretty by myself. Didn't do a lot of traveling or connecting with friends that I had, and I was kind of by myself, going to work, coming back, and just, relaxing and being by myself. And I think that was a problem because in that time I kind of, again, was straying away from God further and further. I was mad about staying and how there was no other option. And I was like, well, this is it. I might as well, stay. I did get a position as an RA for the future year. So I was really excited about that because it was a better leadership position. I would cut some of the costs for living in this place I didn't want to be. But also I was more passionate about doing the right thing before that summer. I would say. So I was really excited to be, I'm gonna I hate how corrupt everything is. There was a lot of injustice going around, or RAs getting favors because they do have more power than a regular resident, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm so tired of this injustice that's going on in campus. I want to be a good RA and show that
fight the power.
Well, yeah, more
fight the greater fight.
Yes, fight the greater fight. Yes,
and I'm assuming you got this role, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Did you become the good RA that followed every?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
No, that was sarcastic. This is again because I was that summer before I became an RA. I was a summer RA as well, so I kind of got a taste of what it was gonna be like. But being a summer RA is different because you're not really trained yet. They kind of just threw me in and go be responsible. So I had a few things I had to kind of just learn by myself, and they kind of sprang me into the role without a lot of training or support. And because during summer there's only a few RAs, it's it's hard to build a team. I think a big pull for RA for me was the team that they got and the camaraderie, but the community that they had just within as RAs. Because they have such a difficult and demanding job, they kind of feel ostracized because they're the power kind of on campus, so then they get put into the group. And
I'm assuming it's more of a policing type of role because you need to tell people off.
Yes, and you need to tell people, don't drink alcohol, don't do this, don't do that, you're supposed to do this. So yes. And
they can easily get ostracized.
Oh yeah. And people make you feel like a cop. For example, my first right after we did our RA training, so for the year we did a one-ish week of just all the RAs are together and they do training and you get to know the team better, set goals and theme for the year, all the fun stuff. Right after that, we had a beach day, and then we were free, and then school was going to start in 3 days. And so me and some of the of age RAs, because they have to be 21 to drink, and 20. Yeah. But all of us were above age. We were able to drink, allowed to drink. So we're like, well, let's go and celebrate, grab a beer, a few of these RAs, and then we go to the downtown bar in Klaipeda, which is Rory. For those of you that know it, Rory's great. But it's the LCC bar because they don't really have a bouncer and anyone can kind of get in.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, and they even employed underage people.
Okay.
Yeah, you might have to pray. Yeah. But anyway, at Rory, and I pull up with a bunch of RAs who, again, all the freshmen, especially the freshmen, because we're introduced to the freshmen, and like all the freshmen know who we are more than like anyone else, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we pull up the Rory, and there's like a staircase that goes to the second floor of this building. And as we're pulling up, I just see there's like 5 tables just full of freshmen, mm-hmm. and they know they're not supposed to be there, and they know we're Rory. So we just everyone's just looking at us like we're cops, mm-hmm. like, and everyone's like, people are panicking. They're pulling up their phones. I'm like, what? I'm just trying to enjoy a drink, man. Like, I'm not here to just police you, like, mm-hmm. and all this kind of stuff. So even like the first, basically as the official thing as an RA was I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. So then we ended up actually leaving that bar and going to another place.
Oh, because it felt like just too awkward, right?
Well, it was pretty full, but also it was like, yeah, everyone's like looking at us and like scared and like, oh no, no. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's the part that definitely felt like policing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When I thought a little bit, but yeah. So that year, I thought it was gonna be great, but then it was a pretty hard year because I had stepped away from God a little bit. I was mad at Him for not, giving me some things I wanted relationally after my sophomore year. And I was like, well, this kind of sucks. And then I ended up getting in a relationship that wasn't a Christian relationship. And there was a lot of problems with that from the get-go. But I was like, well, this is like me rebelling to God. I'm going to do what I want to do. He's not providing for me as I want to. So let me try to provide for myself. A very human thought, I think. And yeah, because of that relationship, a lot of my life, it wasn't because of the relationship. It was because I wasn't with God. I wasn't in a good relationship with Christ. But it was, though outwardly, was that relationship with this girl. And then also just, again, not being willing to listen to God or like seeking Him out and like really listening to what He has to say. So this another rebellious stage as previous to what I had when I was in like middle school or something. Mm-hmm. And yeah, because of that, I was like neglecting a lot of rules, wasn't a great RA because of that. And then yeah, I just had this, it was a pretty decent year, but it could have been so much better if I just listened to God in retrospect. And then I did get a really good opportunity that year though to go work abroad in America. Our school, LCC, does do like a work abroad program, and Chick-fil-A sends a bunch of operators, so the managers of each store or each restaurant. They send them and they kind of like, hey, we're going to recruit some people. It's kind of a partnership that the school and Chick-fil-A does with LifeShape is the branch of Chick-fil-A. So I ended up getting accepted. I was really excited about that. I was like, ooh, get to go to America, live, work. You make a lot more money than you do as an IT rep who gets paid $3 an hour minimum wage and working part-time only. Yeah. But I was really excited for that. Going to work full-time. It's going to be great. But yeah, so I really enjoyed working for Chick-fil-A. I think that was a great opportunity for me to understand more about what working outside of colleges, and again, further pushing me like, I do not want to do studies like ever again. This is horrible. I want to like work and get money.
That leads me to a good question. So this is the second time you're now back in America.
Yeah, this is my second time.
The first time you said you weren't drawn to it. Right?
Yes.
But now you got an opportunity to go and went. What was it, like a curiosity thing? Was it purely just so you get to work? And also, what do you think? So now you're there, now you're working, now you're interacting with Americans. How did that change your perspective on the country?
Yeah. So I wanted to go to America for a few reasons. Again, the pay was really good compared to what we could do in Europe. Chick-fil-A is also a Christian organization. Like, they market themselves as Christians, and I know in a way, I would trust them to take care of me because of who they are as people and as their values. So I think that was a good call. Also, be like, yeah, I should do this because I would feel safer and better to be amongst like Christian employees, because I've heard so many stories of non-Christian employees basically abusing the international exchange students who come to work. Okay. Some of my friends actually felt that because they didn't go with Chick-fil-A. They wanted to just outside, just work and travel, and they had not the best experience in terms of like work and like benefits and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and to answer your question, yeah, I also was kind of like, well, I can go try out America again. I think maybe that's the time I even felt more suffocated when I went, because it's just, I don't know. To me, it was very shallow culture. There was great people at work, but there was a lot of like just, yeah, they kind of talk to you because you're interesting, but then if you ever try to like get deeper with them, they kind of like back out. And as someone who moves a lot around and like knows how to make relationships very quickly, but then also get more deep with a person quicker, it's like it was not the greatest, because they weren't really wanting to do that. And it was more like surface level, hey, what's up? We were just coworkers, but like outside of work, you're just people. It was hard for us. I was with two other, like one of my close friends at that point, and then another person I knew from the school. So we all lived in this big house. Living accommodations are great. I love that. That was an absolute blessing. My time there was very blessed. I really enjoyed, like, basically every day at work, I was pretty happy to go. I was grateful for the opportunity, grateful for everything that the operator and the family that was backing us was doing for us. Like, couldn't be more happy. Got to go to Atlanta, New York, all these kind of fun trips. Got to meet in New York. It was a solo trip I did, but I got to meet long lost friends friends I hadn't seen in a long time from Russia, like people that were in my school there. So I think that was like a great opportunity for me to be an American, go see them. But yeah, it just didn't feel home. I just felt like I was like I'm very good at blending, especially with Americans, because I sound and somehow look like them, and culturally I'm very American. So my other roommates who were first time in America and they were from countries outside of Europe, let's say, it was harder for them for sure. There was a lot of discourse between them and like other employees who were just American. So in terms of that, I was really glad to be there. I could blend in well, but it just doesn't feel.
Do you feel like a foreigner in America?
No,
I
don't. But it doesn't feel like home. It just feels like a reception area of a building. You know,
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But now, like, let's say, so for example, you're in Russia, in Lithuania, in Budapest. So the feeling is different.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you feel more homey, like in all of these countries? You don't?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Budapest is up for grabs. I don't know. Budapest to me is also, it's like the first floor of a building, I guess. But yeah, Russia and Bulgaria, Lithuania for sure feel like a lot more like home, different, I guess, cultural values matter a lot for me. So those three countries, I would say, share a lot of cultural values and cultural, like, similarities.
Cultural identity.
Yeah, exactly. Of like what you are as a person, what's acceptable, what's not, like.
Is that, as you said, Iron Curtain, post-Soviet blockade?
Oh yeah, I mean that definitely has a play in it, but I think it's also just so our mentalities as people is very similar. So then how we deal with relationships and how that plays out, I think is really important, and that's really important to me as a person. So, for example, for those that don't know, in like Lithuania or Russia or even Bulgaria, I think it died.
Oh, I think it overheated. It's so hot.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it died. I think it didn't last. Well, we'll jump to one camera. Okay, for those who don't know, in Bulgaria.
Yeah, so for like in Bulgaria and Russia, and I think I would say Lithuania, and I think probably is a similar theme in post-Soviet countries, is like you mind your own business and you become friends, like you're not really friends with people, but like if you do actually want to be friends, it's very like an actual like trust, and there's like a bond that happens. It's not just very surface level. Oh yeah, we're in And what I feel like in America is a lot of people try to kind of like make friendships to just network and kind of use each other. Like, oh, you have a car, or oh, you have this position in this company. Let me be friends with you, so maybe I can, get to the connections, right? I think here in Eastern Europe, it's more like, we have this similar connection thing, but it's like if you're friends with someone, they're gonna really be friends with you, and there's like this more familial bond that happens with your friends. Again, that is an overgeneralization, but I think it's a more common thing than in America.
Yeah, that makes sense. That You explained it perfectly. And it's okay. So now you're working in America.
Again, I loved my experience there. I would even go back. I would say like if I was in the same living conditions, same experience, I would go back. I actually sometimes I miss working in Chick-fil-A.
Mhm.
So it was actually pretty fun. Taking the chicken and slapping it around. I think it was pretty fun. Yeah, no, it's not fulfilling at all, but it's definitely a job I could see myself doing if you like needed cash or like if you needed money. And again, I respect them as a company because I know that they put a lot of value and trust in God. And to me, that was most evident when we went to corporate. They do like a little corporate trip for all the students. They're like, oh, this is like, it's part of the cultural exchange, whatever. But when we went to corporate, I was so surprised that they actually have like every week they have like a corporate-wide chapel or a corporate-wide service where they all go and they like worship God, and then you can see like the CEO and like the janitor sitting next to each other and they're worshiping God, right? I thought that was really, really beautiful because it showed that like, yes, someone is worth $45 billion or whatever, but this guy makes $10K a year, but they're sitting next to each other and praising the Creator who is above like all of them and like owns everything. I thought that was very beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful sentiment, definitely.
Yeah,
together.
And I probably have a picture of that somewhere I can probably send. But it was just an amazing thing to see that all these people are just like kind of equal and like the same in this moment when they're praising God. So that to me is a big reason why I support them as a company. I feel like it's a great thing to have. I know it's controversial for a lot of people, but I think from what I saw, I could say yes, this is a great.
It fits with your Christian values. You saw it, and your evidence that you had, the anecdotal evidence, if you will,
of course,
was in line to what they were saying. So obviously, you will support the company. So that makes sense.
So yeah, America was great, and then senior of college, so many ups and downs. But yeah, another more of me not listening to God and doing my own thing and paying the consequences for that. But I knew I wanted to stay in Lithuania because in my mind, I worked at LCC. I graduated LCC, so it should be fairly easy to just come to the big capital of Vilnius and just get a job. Or at least it'd be easier than if I try to go to like Hungary or Bulgaria, especially. So that's kind of what happened. I ended up getting a job here fairly quickly. I think it was just the Lord was opening doors for me. It was very clear His plan for me because it was it was so easy to get. Like I was so blessed to get a place to live here, people to live with. I didn't struggle basically at all to find the job that I have now. I think it was very, very evident to me that God wanted me to be here. So now I'm here, and that's kind of how my life has been. Maybe that's a good way to summarize it. But yeah, now that I work here, the future is ahead of me, I guess.
That's beautiful. So we went to the point of now. So you told your story. That's very beautiful. I actually, like full disclosure, we know each other. But I learned.
Secret.
But I learned so many things about you just from the story. A few questions that I have for you. First of all, I think I know the answer to number one, but as a human, there were so many things in your life that were constantly changing.
Yes.
Like your relationship with God, your location, your friends, your family. What do you say was the thing that held you together as you? Like, what was the thing that shaped you the most, you believe? Maybe top 2 things that shaped you. I think number 1 is obviously religion, right? That's what, for more or less, that was always part of your life. But was there something else? Because obviously, even that relationship with God in you waned, and it went up and down. So there must have been other factors in your life, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a good, difficult question.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it when you were speaking, and I'll give you some time to think. But that's what I thought of. Like, there was not a lot of constants in your life. Right, but something held you together and kept you moving forward, and what it was.
For sure, it's definitely again, as you mentioned, my faith in God and believing that His plan is sufficient for me in every way possible, and it's like like he loves me, so it's the best plan for me.
Mm-hmm.
That thought has always stuck with me and kind of keeps me going. But I guess also seeing like people around me who were in similar walks of life, like again, most of the people I grew up with and like I interact with most of my friends are international friends. I actually don't even have many, like I could count the amount of Bulgarian friends I have on my fingers, like there's 3 or 4. And I don't even keep in contact, like that are not family, of course. So it's like all these experiences and all the people that I see that they're going through the same thing. I think that's what pushed me to keep on going and be like, oh, look, other people are also struggling and having very, similar problems and victories in life like I am. So they seem to be doing decently fine. So I'm also in the same boat, kind of. Yeah, and I would say also like looking up to like like close friends or even like my parents and how they are the ones that push all this change and they're still like, following God and, kind of being good role models for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say there was a few like professors or teachers I had in my life that also showed me that. But again, I think it was a reflection of who Christ is. And like they were showing Christ really well. And that's what kind of kept me going. Yeah.
Okay. So you had connections that sporadically showed up along the way to just keep you reinforced and grounded and everything. And if it necessarily was faith, it were other people, right, that showed you the way, which I think it's really beautiful. And just, I think a good parting question would be, if there's a person in your shoes right now who's going through the same thing that you were going through, like indecision between staying in a country you might necessarily like and going to another country, and think anything you can wish them, anything you can say to them, your experience from your life, anything that you regret, anything that you've done different, or otherwise, do you think even like going through and persevering is the right thing to do? What do you think?
Again, I don't have a biased Christian answer, but I really, maybe not as a biased answer, but maybe really think about what do you value in life and what do you want to see your life become. So it's not like I want to have a career, but like who do you want to become as a person? If you value relationships, then dedicate your life to relationships. Try to get those in the best way possible. My answer to that question would be, Christ modeled the best relationship for us, so I would suggest going there. But I think even without the Christian perspective, you can just say, I want to have a lot of money. Then go and try to pursue that and like do what you think is most beneficial to you. Again, I would say that sometimes is very like could be a trap and you could fall for it. But I think once we pursue things that we're really into, we'll find out if we really like them or is it just a phase. And that is kind of how it was for me. I tried to pursue all these other things, but I realized that they're not as fulfilling as, Christ could be for me. And like now my relationship with him is so much more fulfilling than all these other things that I tried to do in the past to try to kind of satisfy myself or like grow to be this person I admired. Yeah,
that's a very beautiful answer. Very well put. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was great.
Definitely like talking to you.
Thank you. It was great.
Looking forward to hearing more. And yeah, thank you.
Great.